Okay. Contention 1. The Assad regime in Syria is detrimental to the Middle East. Subpoint A. The Assad regime has a powerful foothold over the Middle East. Michael J. Tynan, contributing editor and blogger for World Affairs, July/August 2012. The Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party regime, beginning with its founder, Hafez al-Assad, and continuing through the rule of his son Bashar, is deadly state sponsor of terrorism in the Arab Middle East. It assisted a bloodthirsty insurgency in Iraq that killed American soldiers by the thousands and murdered Iraqi civilians by the tens of thousands. It had used both terrorism and conventional military power to place Lebanon under its boot since the mid-1970s. It made Syria into the logistic hub for Hezbollah and the best equipped and most lethal non-state armed force in the world. It had waged a terrorist war against Israel and the peace process for decades, not only from Lebanon, but also from the west banks of Gaza and its Iran's sole Arab ally in its bridge to the Mediterranean. Subpoint B. Military intervention will open the door for regime change. Nader Shad, the director of the Center for the Middle East Studies, September 20th, 2013. For them, it is a zero-sum game and a fight to the finish. It is cynically manipulates sectarian identity and anti-imperialism to maintain its criminal enterprise. Military intervention, as regrettable and complicated as it may be, is the only way to stop the Assad killing machine. By doing so, it may also open the door for the people of Syria to exercise, arguably for the first time in their modern history, their right to self-determination. But there is a further compelling reason why military intervention in Syria is required. This is what most Syrians are demanding from the international community, the most inclusive and representative body of the Syrians in the National Coalition for Syrian Revolution and opposing forces. The Syrian Coalition, for short. While far from a perfect group, it harbors the best prospects for leading Syria to a democratic future. It includes Syrians both inside and outside the country and spans the religious secular divide. More than 110 countries have officially recognized it as the legitimate representation of the Syrian people. Subpoint C. Syria's situation is causing tensions in other countries. Tom Rogan, writer for U.S. News, June 26, 2013. It isn't just Lebanon and Syria. In Iraq, violence is increasing. In Egypt, protest movements continue to challenge the new order of the Muslim Brotherhood. Across the region, varied political movements are in a contest for the future of their societies. With the Syrian civil war grinding on, it's highly possible that Lebanon's tensions will continue to grow. Subpoint D. If the tensions continue to spread, then it will destabilize the region. Middle East Business Intelligence, August 23, 2013. As civil war rages on, its ripples are spreading everywhere, threatening to destabilize the region. Running battles have been seen in Lebanon's second largest city, Tripoli, between Sunni Muslims opposed to the al-Assad regime and ethnic Syrians. Refugees are again pouring into Jordan and Turkey. Meanwhile, in Israel, there has been a race to secure gas masks as rumors circulate that Syria has given Hezbollah Scud missiles, which the group vows to use if Tel Aviv follows through on threats to attack Iran over its refusal to end its nuclear power program. Money and arms are flowing around in the region. Contention 2. Regime change in Syria would lead to the stability in the Middle East. Subpoint A. Regime change will allow the Middle East to make its own decisions without fear of Assad. Michael J. Tynan, journalist for World Affairs, August 2012. A fresh government in Damascus will almost certainly be less friendly towards Iran and Hezbollah and more friendly towards Lebanon. Beirut will be able to make more of its own decisions, which are nationally closer to what the U.S. and Israel would like, even if they aren't ideal. So many of Lebanon's politicians are currently bribed and bullied by Assad into doing his bidding, including their support for Hezbollah and violent resistance against Israel. Even Hezbollah's most powerful tactical allies only support the organization under duress. Subpoint B. Failure to invoke a regime change will embolden Assad to write out U.S. attack. William C. Martin, Associate Professor of International Security Studies, September 14, 2013. To be precise, any American decision to use military force should be guided by 3 objectives. First, preventing further use of chemical weapons while demonstrating that the U.S. is committed to enforcing this norm. Second, weakening the regime of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad while accelerating the rise of moderate opposition group in Syria. Third, undermining the influence of Syria's principal geopolitical patrons, Russia and Iran, whose actions directly support Assad's decision to gas his own people. While policymakers shy away from regime change, the threat of regime change directly supports each of these objectives. I argue further that the United States cannot accomplish these strategic objectives unless it is willing to invoke regime change. I'm not ready for cross-examination.
Go ahead.
Okay, so in contention 1, so point C, can you reread that for me, please?
Something C. Certain situations cause. There's certain. So which one?
So point C in contention 1.
Okay, certain situations causing tensions in other countries, correct?
Yes. Okay, so you're saying that Syria is causing tensions in other countries right now, right?
Yeah.
So how would the U.S. attacking help stop the tension? Because it's known that if the U.S. attacks, Russia and China will attack back. So how is that not causing tensions back?
Russia and China. This is involving the Middle East. Why was Russia and China?
Because they were saying that they would back up Syria if the U.S. were to attack. So
back up Syria.
Yeah.
If
And then for the same contention 1, so point B, you were talking about stopping the civil war, and that has nothing to do with the chemical weapons.
My point wasn't against chemical weapons.
Because I know you
My
mentioned.
point was the regime change,
Okay.
which the civil war was started for regime change.
Okay, but that has nothing to do with the Saudis and chemical weapons. That has to do with the civil war that had already started, and the U.S. has nothing to do with that.
The regime change is both because for the civil war and for the chemical weapons.
Time.